handheld. Hello and welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. So we are very, very near the end of the spring and summer garden. There's still quite a lot that we're going to be able to harvest today. The peppers love the heat and they're really just starting to get their production in gear. But it's been a pretty wet summer for us here, and when you have rain every day or every other day, there's really no way to keep on top of disease. So a lot of our plants are really sick, and we're about to come into a week of heat. So I'm not sure how long this garden is going to last. I was actually quite sick this past week and I didn't make it out to the garden basically at all. I think I stepped in the garden for a little bit yesterday. No, it was Thursday, so it was a few days ago. I gathered some beans, but I really haven't done much with the tomatoes, so there's quite a few here. Thankfully, it hasn't rained in quite a while, and so there's not much cracking. There's a volunteer tomato that took root in this bed here, and it looks like it's our very classic, very well volunteering yellow currant tomato. Lots of these. Didn't plant any this year, not intentionally. I'm glad there's so many of those yellow currant tomatoes here because they really are my favorite little cherry tomato. I've said that before about the Super Sweet 100, which is a red tomato. I've got some over on the trellis over there and we're gonna collect some of those soon too. But I think after several years of growing these guys that these really are my favorite. It's a jungle out here, but the jungle is growing tomatoes still. See, it's been a week or so since I've harvested and got some gross things happening on the bottom of some of these. Sorry. This wayward plant behind me, well, it's actually several plants. It's my asparagus. They're starting to get a little bit fried in the heat, as they do this time of year. Look at this. That's a pretty one. Still got quite a few green tomatoes on here, so we'll still be harvesting tomatoes for a little while yet. There's a big cluster hiding under here. This pretty one brought some of the plant with it. This is a Belgian giant. These red ones up here, these are the Super Sweet 100. There's actually a lot back there. They're true beauties. This one is a little double fruit, which is always cool to see. The plant right next to it is a beautiful tomato called the Blue Cream Berry. This one's from Wild Boar Farms. I'm pretty sure I got my seeds from Baker Creek. These guys are a little bit prone to cracking, but a lot of yellow tomatoes are. This tomato here right next to those it looks a lot like the tomato that was growing in on the archway. That tomato is a black vernissage tomato. I do not like the flavor of it. I'm just saving those for sauce. These ones are the black strawberry tomatoes, and usually when they're grown in the sun, I mean the plants are in the sun, but when the fruits can see a little bit of sun, you'll see more like purple top or purple striping. Because these are so well shaded by the plants, we're not seeing a lot of purpling on these. Can I help you? Why are you so dusty? Why are you so dusty? What have you been doing? Ow, don't bite. I'm finally starting to see the tiniest little bit of evidence that we might have some tomato hornworms over on these plants. We really have had essentially zero issues with them this year. And I say essentially zero because we did see one, but that that feels like 0. However, the little hole in this tomato is telling a little bit of a different story. I'm really not seeing a lot, if any, leaf damage. Even when I walk around to this side, I don't see any kind of leaf damage at all. So it could be something else getting into those tomatoes, but it's not a lot, so it's not a really big deal. Over here next to my raised bed garden is the kids' garden. It is very, very overgrown, but I spy something. They are also growing some of these black strawberry tomatoes. There's a tiny bit of damage on this one too, but you can see the difference in the fruit when they can see a little bit of sun. Now they were growing a whole bunch of watermelons over here, and before we got a whole bunch of rain, probably 10 or so days ago, I picked those watermelons and they're wonderful. I did just discover that I missed one. Let's check on it. Yeah, this vine actually looks dead, so let's get this guy out of here. Ooh. There's actually probably about 1 million more of those yellow currant tomatoes on this plant, but the sun is gonna set before I can pick them all, so we need to move on to the peppers. These pepper plants are hanging over like they're heavy with peppers, but they're not. They're probably just in need of some water. I need to run the sprinklers in the morning. What an interesting turn of events. I do not remember planting a yellow pepper. Very interesting. So over here I am growing California Wonder peppers. These are these green bell peppers, like right here. And these guys, when they're on the plant for a little while, they do mature to like a red color. But this is new. Oh, I did plant yellow peppers. I think these are supposed to be bigger. Ma'am, what are you doing? Oh, gracious. I had a little bit of a snafu earlier in the year, and I forgot that I planted these peppers. What are they called? When I can remember what they're called, I'm gonna put it in the words down below. I think these are supposed to be much bigger than that, but in this plant's defense, I think I've picked off some of its peppers green, assuming that it was a California Wonder. I need to mark better next year, like much better. So I've got these big kind of like stuffing type peppers, and I also have these little habanadas. These are heatless habaneros. They're some of my favorite peppers to grow and to eat. They're very, very prolific and really fruity tasting. They're good. They are not entirely heatless. They are a lot like if you put kind of too much black pepper on your food, or maybe not even too much. You just sprinkle black pepper on your food. That's kind of the level of heat that these are, and not a lot of kids would like that, but I do. They're good. They start out in this real pale cream color, and then I've pretty much eaten most of these, but they do ripen to like a bright orange. So I'm gonna wait a little bit, and I'm not gonna harvest too many of those because there's a different orange pepper that I wanna pick a lot of today. So over on this end of the bed, we planted some Sugar Rush peach peppers. These seeds were given to us by somebody local. I think his name is Ed. Thank you, Ed. A lot of them are starting to turn pretty peach colored, and I'm gonna be making hot sauce out of these. So I'm pretty sure that you can make the hot sauce or eat them fresh or make whatever out of these peppers before they get to this peachy color. But I imagine, like with a lot of things, it's gonna have its full flavor complexity when it's at its peak ripeness like that. A lot of people will use scissors to harvest their peppers. I don't. Maybe I should. Sometimes I do break off the little arms of the plants, but hasn't been anything too detrimental yet. This cat, she's determined to be the star of the show today. Yeah. So you guys heard the news, Peppergate, the scandal this year. Seems like a lot of the seed companies, a lot of the like bigger seed companies that provide the seeds for some of the bigger box stores had some mix-ups this year, and a lot of people are getting different peppers than what they purchased. And I guess one of the bigger ones is jalapenos. So people purchased jalapeno either starts or seeds, and what they're getting is a banana pepper, which is a totally different pepper. And other people are getting peppers that are just completely different than what they ordered as well. Some of them actually being hot when they were supposed to be sweet peppers. It's a whole thing. Now this seed, this is a purple Hungarian pepper. I bought this seed in 2019 or 2020, one of those years. It was a while ago. But this particular jalapeno, I have made salsa with it a couple times, and I've taken the seeds out of it, but it's like I didn't add any peppers at all. It's like it's not hot at all. So I don't really like hot peppers, but I think I might test this one out on camera today. At least smell it. It doesn't smell hot. So here's some of the flesh. Nothing. I got nothing. That's weird. Here's the seed. I'm nervous. I don't like hot peppers. Wow. Our black Hungarian jalapenos are not hot in the slightest. That's going to be disappointing for Levi. All the jalapenos that I've grown have ripened to this red color, which is really cool when you're making hot sauce and things out of it, which we are apparently not doing with those this year. It's crazy. There were fewer of those Sugar Rush peach peppers of the ripe color than I had originally thought, which is fine. We can make a smaller batch of hot sauce. And you know what? We're actually gonna bring this with us. Since the basket has a little bit more space, we might be able to fit some melons in it. Let's go see if there's any ripe. Hello, handsome. How goes it? That one was stuck in the fence. This isn't for you. It's for your chicken friends. That one's okay. Look at this craziness right here. This is spaghetti squash growing back. I harvested spaghetti squash off of the lane here a couple weeks ago, and I noticed when I took a lot of the squash off that there were some little parts of the vine that were trying to grow back. Look, there's even flowers. See these flower blades? That is so crazy to me. See? It's the Lazarus vine. Now, I really don't think that much is really gonna come out of it. It looks like a lot of these flowers are male flowers, but I don't know. I'm gonna leave them and see what they do. A lot of these melons are falling off as soon as they're ripe. I thought about harvesting all of the Tromboncino that have this tan color today. I think I'm gonna leave them on another week just to let them cure a little bit on the vine. From what I have read, as long as the vine is green, there is still nutrition transfer happening. And so, I mean, I want these squash to have as much nutrition as possible. The vine is sick, as a lot of these vines are, but it's still going to be able to get some nutrition into that squash. So I'm going to leave it. There's a lot of birdhouse gourds out here on the lane. These are much smaller than the ones that are in the raised bed garden. There's at least one reason for this, and the reason that I think it is that this is a new garden space to me this year, this 100-foot lane, and I didn't put any kind of compost or fertilizer or anything down. All I did was put this weed fabric down and then a little bit of potting soil in the planting holes, and that's it. So these plants here are just kind of running off of whatever nutrition is in our field out here, and it's not as lush and nutrition packed as our raised bed garden. So these little birdhouse gourds are small, but they're cute. They're handheld and adorable. Little gourds of that size we could probably turn into bottles. We had somebody come pick up some rabbits from us recently, and they saw the birdhouse gourd and said, oh, where I live in Africa, we turn those into water bottles. And I said, you know, I might do that with some of the smaller ones. It's pretty cool. I've talked about how we've started to leave the cucumbers on, let them just go to seed, do their thing. Cucumbers actually take a while to be harvestable for seed. Actually, this cucumber, it's big, it's swollen, it's yellow, but it still could stand to sit on the plant a little bit longer in order to mature the seeds on the inside. I'm really looking for like an orange, pretty decently hard shelled kind of cucumber for the most mature seed. I'm not going to use all of these cucumbers for seed. Actually, a lot of these I'm going to be feeding to the pigs, but as long as they're out here on the vine and the vine is alive, it's going to be acting like a living pantry. These are not going to go bad. They're not going to mold. The second that I pick them, the clock starts ticking before they start breaking down. And so I've got a few things to feed the pigs already this week, and so if I can just leave these on, these are going to be fresher for them. It's nice in here this evening. Still pretty hot outside, but I think it's 81 in here. That's what it says. As I mentioned before, we're getting ready to have a really hot week this week. And the shade cloth on this greenhouse does a little bit, but it really doesn't do enough. It still will be hotter in here than it is outside, especially if there's not a good amount of breeze to kind of circulate the air. I have this solar fan up here. It's running a little bit, but the sun's going down, so it's going kind of slowly. That thing is triggered by the temperature, and it only runs when the sun is out and beaming on the solar panel, because I don't have like a battery backup or anything to store the sun's energy, and so when the sun goes away, the fan turns off. So it's supposed to be real sunny this week though. The Kalima bush beans that I planted are getting really big. Some of them have started to kind of act like they want to be pole beans. Don't know what that's all about. I was actually in here with my daughter earlier picking some black-eyed peas, purple hull peas, some of the green beans that we have going on in here. A lot of the beans have put on their first flush of beans, and we've harvested quite a lot from them. I am starting to see like a second flush of flowers, so we'll have some beans again in a couple weeks. These beans though, I'm gonna pull these out this week. These are definitely done. I mean, they're trying to put on second blooms, but these plants are pretty sick and it's just not gonna be worth it. Here's the spaghetti squash that we harvested a couple weeks ago. These are fully cured and they're gonna be coming inside. I had pulled those off of the plant before they were super yellow. We were getting some pretty heavy winds. The vine had started to die, and so I wanted to get them off before the wind knocked them off. We have a couple of these scallop squash still kind of hanging on here in the greenhouse. Yeah. I'm starting to see a lot of powdery mildew, so I imagine that this plant at least will be coming out this week. And then you can see here, I noticed we had a droopy fella the other day, so I followed the vine. And I did see that this particular plant has dealt with a squash vine borer. This is actually the plant that was advertised as the bush style sugaretti, the one that turned into a vining plant. It's got these really cool fruits on it that are spaghetti squash, but they kind of look like they're crossed with like a delicata. They've got these really cool stripes on them. Aw, darn. So I'm trying to get access to the stem of this one. I accidentally snapped it off. So I'm gonna wanna use this one pretty soon. Harvesting them with the longer stems is gonna just help extend their shelf life. This is basically their only connection to the outside world, and as long as that is nice and dry, they're good and sealed off. This guy's kind of wide open, so it'll scab over, and this will last for a decent amount of time, just not as long as these ones. Oh, dropped some. These little guys, this is how they volunteer so readily, because they're so easy to drop. I do have a video out about how we dehydrate our cherry tomatoes, but honestly, we're really in love with freeze drying our cherry tomatoes. It's kind of like having popcorn in, like, not texture necessarily, but in like the mouthfeel. So hard to describe. They keep their shape, they keep most of their nutrition value. So that's what I plan to do with a lot of the cherry tomatoes that we just harvested. And I've gotten a lot of questions about what the heck am I going to be doing with all of these melons. If you missed the video where I talked about that, go ahead and click it right here.